Chapter 17, Second Kiss. It was day 4 of our trip, the day after my soul awakening. I hadn't talked to anyone about it, not even Mike. Mike and I were connected by Electra's soul, and we shared the same memories. A piece of her soul is inside him, but she leads inside me. Neither one of us seemed ready to accept it. I just recently welcomed the idea of carrying this baby inside me, and now Electra. At some point, he would want to talk, and I want to take part in that discussion when I was ready. If anyone had told me this was going to be the outcome of our honeymoon, I probably wouldn't have believed it. So much had happened since we left home, and the information overload had been strenuous on us both. To dismiss my mind of the most recent rundowns, I took part in the rebuilding of the garden since I felt it was my fault it had happened. They could try and convince me that it was the baby, but part of me would have done better at controlling the emotions. With the loss of Alex, the pain inside stung, but the feeling Evan was dealing with was worse. He hadn't left her body. This wounded him like a stubborn bruise that wouldn't heal. Their union was a deep connection of unconditional love. The bond of a twin flame went beyond any relationship a normal human would experience, an imprint on another, dedicated to each other for eternity. It was a high form of love that required nothing in return, but led to total surrender and devotion to the other. No limits or bounds were put in place. It wasn't just physical attraction, but sexual desires maxed at their highest capacity, romantic levels beyond a scale, and emotional balance bringing peace and generous compassion that could be spread on to others in the near vicinity without even trying. That love, that unconditional love, was ripped away from him for the rest of his mortal life. Something happening to Mike would scar me for life. Since the union, the link between us was unbreakable and divine. Before the union was a push-pull, bringing confusion and hopelessness. Now that we were connected for eternity, I didn't want to go back to the emotional misery. I began to work myself up over the possibility of losing him. My heart started to beat faster, and my breathing became drugged and sloppy. I heard a camper chopping wood across the way. Every chop was louder than the last. The sound echoed through my head, making it very uncomfortable to the ear. As the sound heightened, I covered my ears to block the sound, but it continued to amplify. Then, bam! I was no longer in the garden. In front of me stood a younger version, 19-year-old Mike to be exact. This memory trigger was the second kiss between us. I remember this like yesterday, a day of passion ending with heartache. The past few days had gotten worse with the flashbacks. As much as I didn't want to do this again, there must have been a reason. Mike and I were standing outside of the bowling alley around the side of the building, out of sight of others. Both of us were in relationships at the time, but neither of our partners could attend that night. Our group of friends joined us to bowl, but as the night went on with fun, laughter, and flirting, it brought us to this moment outside with our friends unknowing. He stepped closer toward me, our eyes locked. This enchanted moment became silent. No words exchanged, and no sounds surrounding us, as if we were the only two people on earth. With no hesitation, he pressed my body aggressively against the brick wall. At the same time, he grabbed my waist with both hands and leaned in to kiss me passionately. Did he act on impulse, or maybe intuition? It had been 2 years since the last kiss. The butterfly feelings came flooding back. All the longing stored up in my heart overflowed, pushing me to take a chance, too caught up to think about the consequences. I knew this was wrong, but something told me to accept what had happened next without regret. It was a battle with myself, but as we kissed, it was as if the rest of the world didn't exist. A risk I was willing to take with the man I trust. My warm lips pressed against his stiff lips, and our tongues caressed each other. My tongue ring glided over his warm tongue. This kiss was more heated than before, much faster, with sharp and fast breathing between the two of us. More touching with our hands and our bodies pressed up against each other, lusting for one another, desiring further than just a passionate kiss. As my heart rate increased, I felt this kiss expand beyond our bodies, like energy whirling around us, lifting us into the night sky. Only a minute had gone by, but it felt like hours. The light above us flickered on and off. I ignored it. While kissing sensually, Mike unexpectedly grabbed my breast on top of my clothes. I didn't push back. He then pulled away, and I tilted my head back with my eyes closed. His lips kissed down the left side of my neck as I slid my hands down his muscular biceps, feeling each ripple. I moved them under his arms and around to his brawny back, tightly digging my fingers over the top of his shirt. I kept thinking how much I loved it when he touched me. Now dirty thoughts were popping in my mind, which almost didn't feel like my own, but I liked it. I was seeing visions of him touching me between my legs. Before I knew it, his left hand was slowly moving down from my chest, down my waist, between my legs, but still on the outside of my clothes. An overwhelmed feeling came to me with the connection. Were we in each other's thoughts? Too lost in the moment to realize that the light above us continued to flicker. Neither one of us said a word about it. The intense feeling of him touching me between my legs sent chills through my body, small sparks of electricity zipping through me, warming straight to the core. Memories of the last time we kissed flashed in my head, but this time was much more intense, more erotic, more powerful. Hot energy flowed through my body until suddenly the energy turned into a cold sensation. It felt so good to be touched, but I had to push him back. The light stopped flickering, and my breathing returned to slow and controlled. We had to come back to reality and realize the ramifications could be unpleasant. Both of us were in relationships. Mike, I whispered, we can't. He stopped me from finishing my sentence. I know, he agreed as if he knew exactly what I was thinking. He took a blonde strand hanging down from my face and tucked it behind my ear. I just feel something I can't explain. My anxiety lifted away when I'm around you. Your bright smile is infectious, and I get lost in those luminous blue eyes of yours. I blushed from his gratifying words, but I silently stared deep into his dark brown eyes. We both knew what needed to be done. The pain inside hurts like a bullet wound to the heart. I didn't want to be the girl who cheated on my boyfriend, and he didn't want to be the guy who cheated on his girl. Some would argue we'd already crossed that line. Mike kissed me on the forehead and walked away. I wanted to scream, "Wait, don't go," but nothing came out. A tear slid down my face. I closed my eyes and cried furiously into my hands. Amber, can you hand me the basket? A bright light pierced my eyes as I opened them. I held my hand up to block the blazing sun that shone in the cloudless sky. The trigger was over and I was back in the garden. A young girl was holding her hand out. The basket? She asked again. Oh, sorry, I said as I gave it to her. Why did this memory trigger happen? Then it dawned on me. It was like a light switch came on, and I knew exactly why our relationship was a push-pull all these years. Electra's soul was split into two, hiding inside Mike and me. Zeus didn't just separate her soul because he could. He did it because she needed to hide from Orion. She knew he was eventually going to come for her. She tried to keep us apart, to keep us safe from him, the push. But the inseparable attraction between us caused the pull. What once was one, now was two, back to one. Our soul wasn't meant to be split. We were bonded for life. While making sense of my soul's doings, I tried to salvage some vegetables until Zeke approached me. Hey, do you have a second? I looked up at him, took my gloves off, and placed them on the ground. I was not exactly in the mood to talk to anyone, but if he took me away from this atrocious mess I'd caused, I was willing to listen. I forced myself to stand up. Sure, what's up? Come with me, he insisted. He pulled me away from the garden to a more private spot behind the first aid tent. Curious about what could be going through his mind at the moment, but before he could start the conversation, I led it with a reasonable question. How's Danny? I asked. Good, good. Her leg's doing well, thanks to you, and her head might be slightly concussed, but she will recover. She's still resting inside. Zeke paused for a few seconds. Something was on his mind. So, yesterday, when I was helping Danny in the first aid tent, something strange happened. Uncharted territory for me. He paused again and scanned around to make sure no one was listening. What is it? I asked. He had my attention. He took a deep breath inside. Danny needs some medication for the pain. When I reached for it, in the cabinet reflection was, well, he stopped talking. His hand rubbed the nape of his neck. Anticipation was building. What did he see? I stared into his eyes, waiting for his response. I saw my eyes glowing. That was it. That's what I was waiting for. But they always glow, Zeke. I reminded. No, not the normal colors. They were glowing, like a violet color. Wait, how? Now he had my attention again. But then something even stranger happened. He took another deep breath. Fresh memories of you, he stuttered, but not exactly you came through my thoughts, as if they were my own. I know this might sound weird, but wait, I cut him off. This was intriguing. How could he be connected to my recent memories? I stared deep into his different colored eyes, and suddenly my eyes felt a pulse sensation. Then the feeling of tiny zaps of electricity struck twice. The sound rumbled through my head. Whoa, he said with shock. His eyes shone a radiant violet, similar to Mike's and mine, without the bolts. Together, we saw 6 sisters, beautiful goddesses from another world called Pleiades. Maya, Alcyone, Sterope, Seleno, Tegeti, and the last one, Merope, whose soul was linked to Alex. They were dancing around beautiful fields, unlike what we had here on Earth. The vision jumped to another memory without finishing, like a missing piece. Apollo and Artemis stood side by side with their bow and arrows while facing their parents, Zeus and Leto, rulers of Mount Olympus. Then my eyes returned to blue, cutting the memory short, almost like short trailers to a good movie. I needed to see more. How can I see what you see? Zeke asked. I'm not exactly sure, I said. This isn't the first time we shared images. Maybe your soul is linked to a Greek god? He shrugged his shoulders. Maybe. Did Danny see your eyes glowing? I asked. No, he assured, but she was questioning what I was doing. I froze for about 10 seconds. My back was to her and I kept my eyes shut. We need to show Mike. His eyes being the same color as well, but mine are the only ones showing the bolts of lightning streaks. Maybe he could help us figure out what exactly is going on with all 3 of us. Sounds good, he replied. He's probably still hunting small game with Max. When they get back, it'll be lunchtime, then Alex's funeral. Let's discuss it then. Since the incident, I've been carrying the small paper that Alex gave me in my right pants pocket. Evan may not have recognized the name, but maybe Z could help me figure out who he was or where we could find him. It was worth a shot. Reaching in my pocket to pull out this dry, blood-stained, wrinkled, folded paper, I was hit by a wave of sadness, and I struggled to hold back my tears. Memories of yesterday's horrible incident flashed in my head. Before Alex died, she gave me this. I handed it to him. She said he may be able to help. Zeke opened the paper and read the name. His eyebrows lifted upward and his mouth slightly gaped open. Do you know this person? I asked. Actually, I do. He hesitated. Gary Emerson is my uncle. Well, that was completely unexpected. Your uncle? Yeah, he's a professor at the local community college here in Florida. He's also a writer. I haven't heard from him in years. I wonder how he could help or why she would even know him, Zeke said. That's interesting, I thought out loud. Did you tell Evan about this? He asked. I did, but I guess he didn't know that was your uncle. My uncle and I aren't close. I never told Evan about him, Zeke said. Zeke thought hard. Something was stirring in his brain. He handed me back the paper. Do you want to come back to my tent and we meditate together? I hesitated. Strictly business, I promise, he claimed. I just want answers as much as you do. This is the way we can connect to your soul. Thought about it for a minute before responding with a decision. Took a deep breath and sighed. If this helps us find answers, it's worth a shot. This won't hurt the baby, right? This is completely safe, he assured me. And then after that, they should be back with lunch. We can fill Mike in on everything we know. Mike and I did need to talk. It was time I let him in my thoughts, including my feelings. Another step closer to filling in the missing pieces. We would get this puzzle put together because I was ready for Jasper to be gone and for my life to be back to normal.